as a courtesy via remote means in accordance with applicable law. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public and board members, the meeting and hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast, unless required by law. Members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so by viewing the government access channels, Verizon 39 or Comcast 9, and viewers can also visit pactv.org/Duxbury for information about Duxbury programming, including streaming on Duxbury YouTube, to watch replays and video on demand. As I stated, the meeting is being called to order. The first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda is open forum.
I have a,
Yes.
and I'm for open forum.
Okay, we'll hold off for 1 second here. Let Cindy in. Do you mind?
Yeah, no, wait, yeah.
Okay, sure.
Hang on.
Sorry, Mondays are the longest day. Guess it should be tomorrow.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Tart, you had something you wanted to?
Yeah, we received a letter today addressed to the Select Board in amongst other boards, dating on numerous allegations of bylaw violations at 160 Marshall Street. And I was just wondering if maybe, as you're the vice chair, or maybe Cindy's here, sorry, if maybe we can put this to an executive meeting to discuss and determine the veracity of these allegations. And if so, what actions can we take as a board to address, if any actions we can take as a board to address these issues?
I think that's a great idea. I would second that request to get that on an agenda. And if it could be an executive session, I do think that would be an appropriate, since we would be discussing possible pending litigation.
Yep.
Seems appropriate, but I'll let Chair Lad Fiorini weigh in.
Sounds good to me. Good idea. Good idea.
So could we get on that on the next agenda?
I think that's a Rainey question.
Yes.
What was the letter? Forgive me.
Is detailing numerous allegations of bylaw violations for 160 Marshall Street.
Oh, yeah, let me take a look at it, because it's pending litigation.
Yes, pending, but I'm just wondering if, pending litigation with the Board of Health, but I'm just wondering if maybe we can meet in executive session?
Sure, I'll talk to council, no problem.
All right, good, thank you.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know what
Good
actions,
idea.
sorry.
I don't know either.
Thank you, Fernando. It's a good idea.
And just,
Thank
I don't want to discuss it too much out of the box, but I think this would be not discussing maybe so much the pending litigation, but potential additional litigation. I mean, the pending litigation is with the Board of Health, and we as the Select Board, I think, represent a broader base and maybe want to discuss it not as narrowly as the litigation that's pending.
I'll talk to council and see what they advise, no
Thank
problem.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Yes.
So over the weekend, Duxbury High School presented a wonderful performance of Mary Poppins. My kudos to the cast, the crew, and the orchestra. I mention that because as I was over there, driving back and forth through our recently enacted speed zone,
Oh, yeah.
which is 20 miles an hour, it occurred to me that while the beginning of the zone is very well marked, the end of the zone is not. Or at least I couldn't find any signs that told me I could do something other than 20. So I looked back, and I know we can't discuss it, I'm just raising this for a future discussion for all of us. I looked back at the materials from July 10th, and the zone was supposed to be a fairly small area around St. George, Alden, and Railroad Avenue. And again, it's clearly marked when you begin the zone, but I believe it's confusing, or at least it's confusing for me, and if it's confusing for me and I know where the zone is, I think it's confusing for motorists as to when they can resume 30 miles an hour. For those who try to follow the speed limits around town, it's tough enough having a parade of cars in your bumper when you're doing the speed limit, but I'm just concerned that if we're extending it, well, if we're going to extend it, I think we need to vote on that. But if we're not going to extend it, I think we need to post where the end of the zone that was voted is, so motorists know what the restriction is.
And would you,
Thank you.
and with this, another, not a sign that says end zone or something, you'd probably an additional sign that says 30 now, or whatever the speed.
Either way,
Whatever
because
it is.
as I understand, you need to, whatever sign you just passed continues to be the speed limit until you
Yep.
pass another sign that says
Correct.
something else. So if you get on St. George, you pass the 20s, and by the way, that flashing sign is excellent, I think. But you know to go 20, but then you pass the school and you go 20 all the way to the flagpole. I think you do. So, in any event, I just want to raise that since it's something I just noticed over the weekend. Thank you.
Great. Are there any members of the public that have any open forum issues? If you do, you can go to the microphone and state your name and your street.
Hi, Emmett Sheehan, Powder Point Avenue. This is to do with short-term rentals in the town of Duxbury. Duxbury seems to be an anomaly of not collecting any taxes or any of that. My wife and I own properties in other places, and we gladly pay it. We know Duxbury has lots of them registered, and I know the governor, Maura Healey, has just enacted it for the fee to even increase. I know we can't discuss it, but maybe someday in the future, I think you're missing out on the town is on a ton of revenue, and it's really kind of silly.
Thank you.
My understanding is that short-term rentals are not allowed in Duxbury, right? That's, right?
We can put it on an agenda for future discussion.
Yeah. So
It's a
they're
bit
in
of a-
violation of bylaws if people are doing that. That's not right. But anyway, we shall talk about it later.
We shall.
It is a bigger discussion, and
Yeah.
thank you for bringing it up,
Yeah.
and it's something that, does need to be talked about, because
It's happening.
but it's not supposed to be happening.
Yeah.
But it's happening.
It's happening.
Anyone else? All right. The next new business is actually a public hearing, and we are right on time for that. The state has, this is a 7:05 public hearing for 2024 aquaculture float renewal applications. The state has said on an annual basis, the select board has to grant a permit for the floats where processing of the aquaculture products is done. The floats are in 3 designated areas. I would ask for a motion, please.
I move that the Select Board open the aquaculture float license public hearing advertised in the Duxbury Clipper on January 10th, 2024 regarding the aquaculture float license renewal applications from the aquaculture grant holders named in the notice.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
May I
Aye.
have a roll call vote?
Brian, aye.
Fernando, aye.
Amy, aye.
Michael, aye.
Cindy, aye.
All right. We do have a memo here, and I know he's present as well. Mr. Richard Brennan, the chair of the Shellfish Advisory Committee, stated in his memo dated December 20th of 2023 that the Shellfish Advisory Committee met on December 13th, 2023 to discuss the applications and voted to recommend that the select board approve the applications. We do have a copy of that and a proposed motion. Would anybody, I'll start with the board. Does anybody want to be heard on this?
I wouldn't mind, actually. I'd like to maybe ask the chair, Mr. Brennan, as to on what basis the committee made that recommendation to recommend that application.
Hi, Dick Brennan, Chair, Shellfish Committee, Myrtle Street. What's the question, Fernando?
You made a motion, right? You discussed it. So what was
We
the
discussed
subject discussion and why did you recommend it? I just want to.
It's an annual renewal.
Right.
it runs by the Mass State regulations, and we're asked to approve these regulations yearly, as directed by the Duxbury Bait Commission.
Okay.
And that's what we did. We reviewed all of them, listened to Jake's overture about how the stuff was handled, that kind of stuff. He does the hands-on stuff, and we just do the kind of the paperwork of
Oh, right, okay.
okaying it.
Let's see, our
Our backup's here.
Yeah, backups here. The Harbor Master, Jake, on
Sure,
what
so-
basis are you making
So,
this recommendation?
just for clarification,
Yeah.
the reason these are an annual
Yeah.
permit, you see these annually, is because they're tied to their 9110A permit, which is the mooring that they're associated with. So we don't issue any license for that area because it's dependent on that 9110A permit. So we can't issue a permit that would be extended any longer than what's dictated by statute. Is only can be annual.
Right. Okay.
Floats are on a mooring, and therefore we can't approve that
Right.
location
Okay.
more than annually.
All right, okay, I understand. Is there any reason why you wouldn't renew these moorings? Is there some requirements for upkeep status? What is it? Is just,
Ju-
It's
Just, under
no standards for-
Massachusetts General Law, 9110A is basically it's only allowing for it's an annual permit.
no, that, okay. Maybe I'm not asking the question properly. Is there,
There would be no reason other than the formality of having it tied to a mooring.
Right. That's the only reason?
Right.
There's
That's
no other requirements for
Exactly.
float size, status, all that kind of stuffing like that? Okay.
Yeah, they have to fall within a certain parameter within the area, and all those have to be, but I think I'm conflating two different things.
So it seems to me that, it's a renewal on a regular basis.
Yep.
So it opens it up to give us an ability to have a discussion about it. It's not a forever permit. So my concern with this, and I realize I am once again beating the dead horse, but since I became a member of this board, I have asked for the Bay Management Committee to come in so that we can have a comprehensive discussion about the activities in the bay. And there is, the Aquaculture Committee is always here. You guys are on top of your stuff. I understand that your interests, though, are for the grower and for the aquaculture industry. And the Bay Management Committee is more of a global committee that looks at the bay as a whole and what's in the best interests of everybody, not just the aquaculture industry. And again, those things overlap, and I'm not saying that you're adversaries, I'm just saying that you come at it from two different angles. And I, as a member of this board, need the information from both of the committees to enable me to make informed, good decisions that affect everybody. And I have not had that, and I am reluctant at this point to make any, whether it's a transfer of a lease or whether it's this, or I think I'm at the point where I just don't feel comfortable making any big decisions when it comes to the bay until I receive the information that I have been requesting now for several years. So that's where I'm at.
Can I provide some context, Amy, to your request? So, yeah, I'm the liaison for the Duxbury Bay Commission, and the commission and the Aquaculture Committee also has met, and so we're going to present an update of our let me see, I'm putting in the right words, but basically we do have an aquaculture legislation that we enact, and it has been around a moratorium on the shellfish farming and aquaculture, and both committees have voted to change that moratorium to a limited entry shellfish fishery. So we're done. We're just preparing the presentation, and so we need to get it on the agenda within the next available meeting to
And I'm
present.
assuming that that's ultimately our decision as a board.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
so
they're going to
it-
recommend, they voted to recommend changing it from a moratorium to a limited entry fishery. So there's a presentation being made, and the commission will be coming to make that presentation to the board.
And
So
I look
hopefully-
forward to that,
Hopefully
and-
it will answer some of your questions.
Yeah, and I think that, due to COVID and other
Mm-hmm.
issues that, in the last, 4 years or so, it has prevented this discussion, but
Yep.
we're all new members on this board that have not had the benefit of those, of any discussion about how, other than from the Shellfish Advisory, and they have been very helpful when we have had questions. But again, it's that balanced, real comprehensive look at what is going on in the Bay and what these proposals are that I think is
Right.
overdue.
I'll speak to that for a second. Bill, the Bay Commission is the umbrella of all of it. They oversee the Aquaculture Committee, the Shellfish Committee. They kind of give us the guidance. They didn't have to okay what we just did to the annual renewal. But there is going to be a meeting. I'm part of that meeting. And I suggest that prior to the meeting, put your questions to paper so that you don't ambush these people. They'll still have plenty of information for you. I've gone to these meetings and people aren't really prepared when some of these questions come and they're not prepared for them. My suggestion is let these people know what you're going to ask them. And I think you'd be right on top of it and you'll get all your answers you want.
Well, I think we need the presentation. This board has never been given a report on as to why there was a moratorium in the first place and why that was extended. And
Yep.
we've never had the benefit of really understanding, what's going on out in
I think
the
the
Bay.
presumption is that you've read the regulations. I'm not criticizing you. The presumption is everybody's read the regulations. What I've found out, being the chair, not too many people know what's going on with the oyster industry or the shellfish industry because they don't have that in front of them. Or they never had an opportunity to read it, or it didn't cross their interest until all of a sudden something crossed their interest and they go, wait a minute, where did this come from? I get ambushed all the time about questions about, and I'm going, wow, that's been there since for 12 years. Just people don't know. My suggestion is for you, make a questionnaire up, give it to them prior to it, and they'll have all the answers.
I need the context for I appreciate what you're saying, and I'm not looking to blindside anybody or to.
I'm not
really
saying that. I'm just saying,
I'm
it would
just-
make everything go smoother.
I think we just, again, would all benefit from a real comprehensive discussion, a look at what's going on in the Bay, what are the different industries, what are the different, a lot of people have a lot of thoughts and concerns and access, and, I'm hearing a lot, and I just want to make sure that everybody has a voice. And again, this board needs to understand, what's happening out there, how many leases, where they are, all those, and the regulations as well, but I think there's more to it than
I
just.
love the idea of that, especially if you're gonna go and people can watch it and they can actually see it and be benefited by what information there is out there and have their questions answered.
Agreed.
I
Yes.
just ask what's squarely in front of us here, and I don't care who answers this. This appears to be something that's required by Mass General Laws 130, sections 57 through 68, to allow these growers to do their work, to sort seed, process, and be able to do what they need to do with their shellfish. What does that have to do with this future conversation with the moratorium? Jake, Harbor Master.
So, I mean, everything would have to do with it, but realistically, this is in order for them to maintain their ability to fall within the state, the mandates of Vibrio requirements, the agreement that we worked between the state, the Division of Marine Fisheries, the Department of Public Health, in order for them to be able to provide a safe and healthy product to the public. So that's why
And when does when did last year's expire?
December 31st, so it's the,
So this needs to be renewed to allow them to do their work
Correct.
this winter.
yep, and that's why I said, It's an annual permit because it's tied to the mooring.
The mooring, that, got it.
All right.
Hopefully that explains.
Just a point of clarification. So as we're looking through the papers, and I understand we're talking about floats, the lease that we're being asked to sign seems a little more broad. It says a license and lease to grow, cultivate, and to sort, seed, and process and soak authorized shellfish during the period of this license and lease in and on the flats and waters. Is that different from floats? Because when I look at the legal ad, it seems pretty clear that we're talking about just floats at a certain lat-long location.
Yeah, it's just considered flats because of, it's just the nomenclature of, just the verbiage. It's on the location it sits on a flat.
Oh, okay, so we're not talking about the acreage where you're harvesting
Nope,
out of?
nope,
Okay.
this is just specific to the mooring that the float currently sits on that we set up back when we did the dredging. We set out a designed anchorage. We established the aquaculture float areas. We established the ability to have the upwellers at the DBMS facilities. That's what's before you today.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, I'm not looking to, jam up the industry by, by being, not voting on this tonight, and especially since it looks like it's expired and it needs to be renewed. But I will say that I really feel strongly about this. We've been asking, I think we've been patient, and I
3
feel-
years, I think, is a lot of
It
patience.
has been years, and so I would ask the board just to, ask that we not transfer any more leases or do any other actions when it comes to this until we are able to have that, discussion and conversation and presentation that enables us to have the information that we need to make these decisions.
And I think this is different than transferring a lease.
Yeah,
This is-
but
this is
it's
just-
part of it,
absolutely.
so it's kind of, yeah.
I mean,
This is tied to their current status.
that's
If they
all.
were to come up for their renewals, that's something, this is not a renewal of their license. This is just specific
understand.
for this, their ability to perform their job.
And we've had those where the applicants come in here and talk about the work they're doing and
Yep.
what they're going to do with their flats.
And again, has no bearing on any growers or what I just, again, we deserve, we need to have this presentation. We
I
need
hear
it.
what you're saying, Amy. My only concern is I don't want it to appear that this board is saying, because there's some issue with bay management, that we're going to potentially prejudice individual growers. I don't think that's what we're saying at all.
No.
So I don't want there to be a report to say, oh, Select Board is holding anything up. I don't think that's your intent. So I
It
just
is
want to
not.
clarify that point. And if we do feel strongly that we need to meet with bay management, perhaps we could ask the chair or the town manager to send a letter to the chair of that committee and ask for a meeting date, certain.
I will put it on the agenda, right? It's all been signed, recommended, the document's all there. We just need to get it on the agenda, Select Board agenda. So that's the only thing stopping it from coming. It's all done. We just need to get it on the agenda and have that discussion.
When is it on the agenda?
Oh, it's been on the future agenda for a long time. I just need
4 years.
I need the information before we can schedule it.
Yeah, okay. Jake can send it to you this evening. Right, Jake?
I'm sorry?
What is it? What is the information that we're
The
looking at?
shellfish regulations, remember the updated Section 8?
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I can send that. I just
Yeah.
don't have the,
No, the other
I
bit.
don't know when the presentation will be.
The presentation is, I'm sure Joe is working on
Okay.
it right now.
Yeah.
Are we doing it all at once? I mean, is the presentation plus Section 8?
Oh, it needs
Yeah,
to
yeah.
be. I can't.
believe-
When does it
Yeah.
all?
I believe the concept would be
Yeah,
Yeah.
a history of how we got to where we are,
yep.
the recommendations going forward, and then asking, requesting acceptance by the
By the
select.
Select Board.
Whenever it arrives, we'll put it on.
Yeah, and I
That's
think
always
it
been the
needs to
case.
be.
Yes, it's,
again, I
It's
think that there
literally
is.
just that's the next step.
I think that there is some public interest in this. I know that people have reached out to me, and I think that there will be people here that have, thoughts and recommendations of their own regarding the bay. So I think it'll be a very good discussion. So I look forward to that, and I appreciate that it's getting on the agenda.
With all that being said, what is the pleasure of the board tonight? My personal opinion is I would like to move this,
I'll move it.
is that the pleasure?
Yes,
That's
please.
fine.
May I have a motion?
I move that the Select Board approve the float license renewal application submitted by the following applicants: Ursula Balmer, Arthur Bennett, William Bennett, Mark Boutier, Brad Doyle, Scott Doyle, Michael George, Stephen Gilbert, Joe Grady, Christian Horn, Robert Nietzsche, Benjamin Lloyd, Victoria Lloyd, William McCormick, Donald Merry, Gregory Morris, Christopher Phillips, Joseph Pierce, Peter Prime, Christopher Sherman, Kevin Thomas, and Brian Z. And as required by Mass General Law 130, Section 57 through 68, grant permission to conduct activities as outlined by the Bay Management Plan, designated aquaculture area, federal anchorage, DBMS updweller dash aquaculture float, pending all federal, state, and local reviews and approvals.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Brian, aye.
Fernando, aye.
Amy, aye.
Michael, aye.
Cindy, aye.
May I have a motion to close the aquaculture public hearing?
Move that the Select Board close the aquaculture float license public hearing.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Brian, aye.
Fernando, aye.
Amy, aye.
Michael, aye.
Cindy, aye.
I would just like to thank the board's patience and understanding through this and getting to the next step. And we are looking forward to getting to the next step. I assure you.
But Jake, you already know that the next time a license application or transfer comes up, it's going to be, if we haven't had this meeting, on the updated regulations, it's going to be
Yes.
fun and games.
I absolutely,
So let's get it done.
yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. The next order of business is a discussion regarding the Ellison Fund distribution. The Ellison Fund is a non-expendable trust, which was accepted by the 1990 annual town meeting. The terms of the gift allow for half of the interest to be spent for worthy town projects and the other half to be spent on the upkeep of the Ellison Playground, i.e. the one adjacent to the Duxbury Free Library. According to Mr. Studley, the Treasurer's Department has indicated that a total of $25,234.40 plus a $500 stipend to the trustees, which the trustees have declined, is available from the Ellison Fund for this fiscal year. Normally, the Recreation Director recommends projects to the Ellison trustees based on collaborative input from the Recreation Director, DPW Director, and/or Manager of Lands and Natural Resources, and the Facilities Director. The staff's recommendation for the Select Board's approval is for $12,617.20 for the maintenance and upkeep of the Ellison Playgrounds and $12,617.20 for the restoration or replacement of the left field wall at Tarkiln baseball field. To facilitate this process, the staff has also reviewed their recommendations with the Ellison Fund trustees, Mr. Matthew Walsh and Mr. Stephen Carlton, as the trustees have the final approval. Both trustees have indicated their agreement with the suggested expenditures. Open it to the board with any questions.
Are they here this evening? Usually
They usually
speak to this.
speak to this.
Well, Mr. Vice Chairman, I can address this briefly. I'm the liaison to the Recreation Activities Committee,
Excellent.
which took this up at its most recent meeting. And there are some members of that committee who are actively involved in Duxbury Youth Baseball. And if we're familiar with the Tarkiln field behind the historic building, we have the so-called Green Monster. That's what we're talking about, which is iconic. Certainly in Boston, but here in Duxbury as well. In fact, I heard a number of stories that other teams, when they come here, enjoy seeing the wall, and it's kind of popular for the town. So in any event, apparently it's in dire need of replacement repair, and the funds became available through the Ellison Fund, and the trustees and the Recreation Activities Committee felt that it was a worthy cause, given its prominence for much of the summer to a lot of sets of eyes.
So so they're not sure whether to restore it or replace it at this point? They don't have a...
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how deeply they've got into the guts of the structure.
12,600, I mean, maybe I'm not familiar with it, but it's a wall, right?
And it appears it's just a contribution towards it. It might not be the total cost of that left field wall.
Yeah, it's plywood, it's all wood frame.
Yeah.
When your kid puts one over, you'll know where it is. It's pretty awesome.
And the other aspect of this is replenishing surfacing material as well as fence repairs at the library playground there, which we all observe and have our kids there. So that's nice that that'll be getting a little TLC this year. Are there any questions from the audience? With that, I would ask for a motion.
I move that the Select Board recommend a total expenditure of $25,234.40 from the Eben H. Ellison Trust Fund for the following: $12,617.20 for the maintenance and upkeep of the Ellison playgrounds, and $12,617.20 to be allocated towards the restoration or replacement of the left field wall at the Tarkiln baseball field.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Roll call.
I'll abstain as I missed most of the discussion, had to pop out.
Okay.
But it's a good cause.
I'm sure you like playgrounds.
Yeah, I'm sure, definitely, I wasn't privy to the
No, I
conversation.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. We move on to the annual town meeting articles. We are now going to do a discussion, review, and possibly a vote on the following March 9th, 2024 annual town meeting articles. We have a little over half a dozen on the agenda tonight. We'll start with 17, a transfer of town-owned properties under the control of the Select Board to the Conservation Commission.
Excuse me, Mike, before you jump in.
Yes.
Excuse me one sec, Holly. I'm passing out the one-liners so you guys can see where things are in terms of the schedule and the vote.
Boom, 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 one line.
And does anybody need a copy of the warrant?
Maybe,
I have hard copies.
I would
I
love
like
one.
hard, I'll take one, thank you.
You got one?
I'd like one.
I'll
like
take an
one.
update.
I have spares if you need it.
I might
Thank
have
you.
one in here,
We're
though.
still using the January 19th
Oh, are we
version.
still using the same one?
Is it the same one from last one? I have that
January
one.
19th,
Okay,
yeah.
got it.
You'll be getting the new final version. It'll be going out Friday.
I've got that
All
one.
done, loaded, and ready to go.
Oh, can I have it for tonight, though?
Yes, yeah, I knew you'd want
I
one.
have one at
See
home.
that? Look at that, a hard copy.
That's all right.
Pardon? I do. It's the same one from the 19th. I didn't know if you had one. There you go.
And we have a line item for paper on here.
It's recycled.
Keeps going up.
But think of all the money we're saving because we're not printing out the Select Board agendas except for one person. Oh,
And
It's
me.
not me, I only get the motions printed out. I'm on electronically.
All right, anyhow.
Hey.
oh, sorry.
All yours, Mike, thank you.
All right, so Article 17, and just for a basis of knowledge, this is a transfer of portions of town-owned properties under the control of the Select Board to the Conservation Commission. It's historic Green Harbor Trail. And we have Ms. Holly Moore.
Good evening. Hi, Holly Morris, Chair of the CPC. With regard to Article 17, that's really a Conservation Commission article, but I am a member of the CONCOM. The CONCOM voted to indefinitely postpone that article. There's quite a bit more work to be done on that.
And
So that's their recommendation to you, so you can follow suit and do the same if you prefer.
Yeah.
And just for my edification, I know I asked you this, but this, it's now, this was on an agenda previously, and it was a larger scope of land. Now
Correct.
This article was just the Green Harbor Trail
Yes.
itself, right out the back door here.
Exactly. It is, it goes from the O'Brien Bog and it works its way over behind Houndstitch, The commission is looking at this trail and really needs to define more definitively where it actually courses through, and also to provide some buffer around it. But at this point, the commission's not ready to bring this to town meeting.
Are there any questions from the board?
I just want to point out that this is adjacent to the cemetery. So I understand that the Conservation Commission's including the cemetery trustees in its discussions with what it's going to do, or what it's going to propose for this trail. I want to make sure that the two groups are working together, because it's potential important expansion area for the cemetery, and I just want to keep that on our radar in the event we're looking to preclude future use of it through conservation.
And also, I'll add to that, I had conversations with town council about this article prior to it being recommended by the Conservation Commission to indefinitely postpone it. And if, in fact, a trail is all they desire, they could come into the board at any time and basically drop a plan on the table and say, we'd like you to adopt this, and you could do it that simply. It wouldn't require town meeting authorization. To change the ownership would. But they could easily request an easement for the same.
So easement then would be the simplest.
Yep.
Could be. And I spoke
Could
with
be,
one of the trustees, and I understand this could be incorporated into a larger expansion, a park-like area of the cemetery itself as it expands, if they need that area. So in other words, it can be used for multiple purposes.
Right. Okay.
With ownership remaining with the board.
Right.
Right.
Well, I think it's definitely, I appreciate the fact that you're putting it, you're definitely postponing, because I think it is a bigger conversation. When the little bit of conversation that I've had with Mr. Hayes about the cemetery and the future needs of the cemetery, that is, that's not etched in stone, if you will. There's different towns are doing different things. You have every town in the Commonwealth has to plan to an extent for the burial of their residents. But we, for instance, don't limit it to that. How much we set aside isn't limited to only our residents. We're actually we allow other other residents from other towns to utilize. It's a bigger conversation. There's options. I think that there's different interests, and I think that it needs to be a part of a bigger plan and a bigger discussion.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you. We have another member of the audience that would like to speak.
Sure, I would. Emmett Sheehan, Powder Point. I'm also a cemetery trustee. However, I'm not speaking for them. I appreciate what Mr. Glennon said, communicating with the different boards. But I think beyond that is a lot of boards. I think the selectmen, in mine and a lot of people's opinion, done a wonderful job overseeing this land for the last 70 years. Nothing's happened out there. Nothing's done that. I think it might be short-sighted for us to take a good chunk of town-owned land away from the control of the town. We could have, who knows, a school or something, wastewater treatment. I don't know what the future holds, but to lock it out of any development of anything, which is exactly what conservation would do, is not a super idea, especially, we support you guys, we have forever, and you've done a wonderful job.
Thank you for the vote of confidence.
Yeah, thanks, Emmett.
Thank you very much. Is the board ready to make a recommendation on this article tonight?
Yes?
I'm ready. I move that the Select Board recommend to town meeting to indefinitely postpone Article 17.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And now we move on to Articles 25 to 31, the CPC articles.
Let me also point out that we are intending to extinguish in the special town meeting $600,000 in debt that was incurred for the purchase of the Ricker property. As you recall, voters approved the acquisition of 36 acres of the Ricker Cranberry Farm,
It's not on the agenda.
which
You'll be
abuts
looking
two
at it.
evergreen drinking wells and is across the street from North Hill.
So it looks like we're going to be discussing that with our finance director on the 12th of February.
Great.
But thank you for the heads up on that.
So I can now go right into Article 25.
That'd be excellent.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Article 25, this is, again, our housekeeping article. It is for the CPC Operating Fund. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44B, the CPC is recommending the transfer of 5% of CPA receipts for administrative expenses. This includes salaries, consultants, legal fees, and any revenue remaining in the account is returned to the CPA General Fund. The amount that we are asking for transfer is $140,230.
Has that money ever been used for administrative costs? Or do you have any plans to use it for administrative costs?
It's always used for administrative. That's strictly what this is
Right, I
for.
know. Do you use it, I guess?
Yes.
Okay.
We do.
On what kind of thing?
Again, for salaries, it's also used for legal fees,
Okay.
consultants, things like that.
Holly, I just provided the board with the email you sent me this
Oh,
morning.
excellent, thank you.
You'll see the number that she just noted under
If you
expenses.
look at this, the green sheet, this is
Yeah, parentheses.
drawn up by Mary McKinnon. And on the column on the left, it shows you the receipts, the CPA surcharge. We're anticipating this year that we are going to be receiving in local surcharge receipts $1,954,600. And the state match, which is projecting that it might be around 40%, $850,000, for a total of roughly 2.8 million.
Great.
So just below that are the expenses, the CPC administrative expenses, which are 5% of all your receipts. And we're projecting that that will be $140,230. And again, if that money does not get spent, it goes right back into the CPA general account, which is typically what happens.
Okay.
The surcharge with the voters authorized that last year, and one of the big upsides was this state reimbursement. How much of an increase was there from previous years on that state reimbursement? That
We still received
estimate.
last year's reimbursement. It was based on last year's numbers.
right?
So we haven't gotten the increase in the state match yet.
Okay.
That will be forthcoming this
But the
next
estimate is
fiscal
about
year.
40%.
Yeah.
That's great.
Can I ask a question about the allocations of 280,000 into each of the three pots? Why don't those add up to the total estimated revenues?
Because you're looking at that number is really taking, if you look at the top numbers, what Mary has done is she is backed out the numbers that are in parentheses, and she's come up with that final balance.
Yeah,
So all 6 numbers.
I do see, but, okay. Yeah, all right.
So I need your approval, I guess, on each article.
Correct. So
So I'll move that, are you ready for a motion?
for 25, yes,
Okay, I'll
absolutely.
move that the Select Board recommend approval to town meeting for Article 25, the operating fund.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank
So
you. Article 26?
Yes.
Okay, Article 26, and this, Amy, this will address your question on those numbers. These are the CPC allocations. Again, in accordance with the CPA, the Act, 10% of CPA receipts are to be deposited into each of the accounts: open space, historic preservation, and affordable housing. So if you look at Mary's accounting here, she demonstrates that $280,460 is going into each of the accounts. So she has now backed that out of the receipts at the top of the column. When that occurs, the open space account will then increase up to $470,645. And those numbers are at the bottom of the sheet. If you look to the far right, she indicates what each addition into each of the three accounts is and gives you a final balance. So the historic preservation account will have $567,233 after the deposit of the $280,460. And the housing account will have $496,625. Any questions? Silence.
My question is, and I think it comes with Articles 29 through 31, what will it be spent on?
I'll tell you that later.
There we go.
Or what will the town have an opportunity to decide if they want to spend it on?
Well
Is
said.
more the, right,
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
yeah.
So I need your approval for Article 26.
Yep.
Should be Mary McKinnon.
I'm sorry, somebody trying to,
She closed and tried. It's okay, it's Mary McKinnon. She'll jump in if needed.
Okay.
But you guys can keep going.
I-
Yep.
I will move that the Board of Selectmen recommend to town meeting to approve Article 26 CPC allocations.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Article 27? All right. Article 27 is the Conservation Fund. We typically do this every few years. This fund allows for expenses such as the purchase of small properties that protect environmentally sensitive areas and management of conservation land, which may include signage, fences. We've used it for our maps, all sorts of things such as that. Duxbury was at the forefront of this type of funding, received the Department of Revenue approval, and now other towns are copying this. The CPC recommends approval of the transfer of $75,000 from the CPA open space account to the Conservation Fund.
Is that on the sheet that was handed out?
I didn't-
On the green
no.
sheet, no.
No,
I don't
it's
see it
not.
on the
It's
green
on-
sheet.
it's on this
It's
sheet.
not.
No, okay, all right. I'll stop looking for it then.
What's our balance on this?
Yes, I was going to ask that. Good
Nancy,
question.
do you have the balance?
I do, it's around 67,000.
Oh, and plus this.
We typically bring it up to at least 100,000.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just a question. So 10% has to go to open space, as we just voted. So the number we're talking about, the 75,000, does that now come out of the
Open
the
space
10%?
account, yes.
And is the reason for that is because we can't use the funds in the open space account for the type of things that we want to use it from the conservation fund?
There's a number, the reason we have a conservation fund also is it allows the Conservation Commission to acquire things such as small pieces of land or all the other things that we do, the work and the management of the properties and so forth, and we don't have to come to town meeting for these small expenses that do add up over time, but it would take time and, a long process. This is a way of just having more immediate funds to put that to work.
So it'd be outside the administrative 5%,
Yeah,
but it would give, or it gives CPC an opportunity to take advantage of some things that are good to have, but can't wait until town meeting, or maybe don't
Right.
rise to that level. I see.
Can you give me
Certainly
an
some of these
example,
items.
just an example of one of
An
those
example?
things? Yeah, an example.
We did fencing at one of our properties over on Church Street. Fencing, signage, trails. What else? Yeah, we do purchase wetlands. Occasionally, those come up to us. The barn at Kroll. Oh, yes, there was a barn that had to come down over at Kroll. That's the bog that's over near the expressway.
Yep.
Um,
Do you have to buy some equipment for the Jaycox farm one year? It came from this?
Did that come out of there? It may have,
Well,
That's all right, I understand, thank you.
And like the other funds, if you don't use it, does it roll into the general?
no, that stays in the conservation fund.
Okay.
And the Conservation Fund is administered by the CPC or the Conservation Commission?
Conservation Commission and the administrator,
Right,
Nancy.
by Concom. Okay.
I have to say, the trails, you know, I walk them every day, and you guys do a fabulous job out
Yeah.
there. It's amazing how quick the,
Yeah.
you know, the trees in a big wind and comes and things are cleaned up. It's great, thank you.
I like the pamphlet as well.
Oh, me
It's,
too.
for all the
That
trails.
was paid for by the conservation.
Yeah, that's really nice. It helped a lot. I was able to figure out.
You didn't
where
get
the
lost,
trails-
Fernanda?
I didn't get
No,
lost.
that's a
Oh,
good
yeah,
thing.
it's great.
And I found out where there's some pretty cool trails.
Oh,
so-
there's some great trails.
Yep.
May I have a motion?
Yes, I will move that the Select Board recommend approval to town meeting of Article 27 for the CPC Conservation Fund.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next, Article 28.
Article 28.
No.
No,
29.
29.
29.
We're not going to do 28 because that hasn't gone.
I don't know why
Before.
we're not doing 28.
Additional information is needed, we don't have pricing,
Yeah,
Okay.
pricing-
Oh,
pri-
that's
price of
fine.
or the
TBD.
scope.
That's fine.
29 then.
Article 29, rehabilitation and preservation of the town clock, which is at the Pilgrim Congregational Church. The town-owned clock was gifted to the town and installed in 1905. It's in the steeple of the historic Pilgrim Church at 404 Washington Street and is in need of restoration. There are 4 clock dials with clock hands, numerals, and minute markers. The work includes only the exterior portions of the clock, as the internal mechanics are in good working order and are not in the scope of this project. Procurement and prevailing wages are at play and bids will be required. The CPC is recommending the expenditure of $20,000 from the CPA historic account for rehabilitation and preservation of the town clock.
I have a question. Holly, is there monies coming from other places for this?
Not that I don't believe there are, no, strictly CPA, given that it's a town clock.
Oh, okay. That nobody knew about.
I
but-
Oh, we know.
Actually, we do have someone who's paid by the town to wind the clock every so often.
Okay, well, there you go. So the idea is that it should not cost more than $20,000?
I'm going to defer to Rainey. I'm not sure
We
whether.
hope it doesn't. We're going to have to receive quotes. We have to get quotes on this because it's a public works project. The minute you spend $1, you got to pay prevailing wage, so we'll see what happens. We think it's going to be around that.
So 20,000 from the 567,000 that it.
From the historic account,
Okay.
yes.
Do we have other town clocks in town, or is this the only
hope not.
town clock?
Thankfully, no, because we get complaints on this quite a bit in the summer.
Complaints about
Complaints?
it, like,
Chiming, yeah.
it's just,
Oh, my
oh,
God.
it's too loud?
Yes.
Oh,
Oh, please,
Really,
I'm sorry.
we love it.
It's been there
You live near
forever.
it?
I do, and I love it. So when I hear it.
No, and usually the people that are complaining are from out of town, renting houses.
Oh,
Renting houses that are
Illegal.
not allowed to be rented.
But I can't, They're not the problem, are they?
Well, we really should take their complaints to heart.
We've come full circle today.
We're full circle. So basically, we can ignore those complaints because they're not really there.
That's right, they're not.
I'm going to send them to you.
They don't matter.
All right.
Oh, that is something, okay,
Yeah,
wow.
we get complaints every year.
I appreciate, Holly, that you pointed out that this is town property.
Yes.
We're not expending these funds for a private church structure,
No.
for example. So I think that's important to point out. I think it's a terrific use of the funds, and it's certainly a very prominent historic fixture in town.
Maybe they could turn it up when they're, I'm just,
No, we did that 2 years ago.
are you ready for a motion?
Absolutely.
I move that the Select Board recommend to town meeting to approve Article 29, CPC, Rehabilitation and Preservation of the Town Clock at Pilgrim Congregational Church.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Better than a digital clock flashing 12 all the time.
This was also donated by the Ellison family. They were
You're very generous.
very generous.
Article 30?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, Article
Okay.
30. Thank you very much.
Article 30 is the transfer of funds to the CPA Affordable Housing Reserve for $250,000. As you recall, the Simmons Farm, or the Harrington Farm, and the neighborhood was under threat of another sizable development in the neighborhood. At a special town meeting, $2.35 million was appropriated by drawing down all reserves and borrowing. The Housing Trust originally secured 3 lots for housing. However, one of the lots at the corner of Temple and Laurel Streets, it was decided that this corner lot would better serve the historic landscape. Housing funds paid $250,000 for that lot, and so we are recommending that $250,000 be transferred to the CPA housing account from the CPA undesignated funds. Transfer of these funds and the 10% allocation will increase the balance in the CPA housing account to $746,625.
This was a great investment by the town. When the 250 went out,
Yeah.
and the guy sitting right there, Tag, is the one who herded all the cats to make everything happen.
Yes.
And get the property preserved. Lots of people were involved, but Tag got the bruises and scars to show it. But thanks to everybody who did that. I think now it's privately owned with lots of protections.
Yes.
The farmhouse and the farm, and this would replenish the funds that were used for that preservation purpose in the first place. It's great.
Agreed.
Just a question on this. We took a certain amount of debt out as well for the guys. How is there a plan to pay off that with the increase in the?
That's a very good question. If you look at the green sheet that Mary drew up, you'll see debt service. And under that is, for this coming year, the Harrington property debt service is $54,500. The Pink property, $153,125, and the Ricker, $30,000. The Harrington property and the Pink property debt was bundled with town general obligation debt. Therefore, we cannot unbundle it. It is essentially locked in there. We can't prepay it. It's unless the entire debt is paid off. And therefore, it's sitting out there, and we will be seeing annual expenses for debt service. Well, you got a better rate bundling.
Right.
That was the reasoning.
Yeah.
So we can pay the debt service out of the fund, out of CPC funds,
Yes, absolutely.
but we can't unbundle it and pay it off in a lump sum.
Right.
Or you can't
However,
pay it down.
the Ricker was different because that was the short-term note, and that's coming due. And therefore, we're going to use CPA money to extinguish that,
Great.
so.
Ready for a motion?
I am ready for a motion. Thank you.
I move that the Select Board recommend to town meeting the approval of Article 30, CPC transfer of funds to the CPA Affordable Housing Reserve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 The next one, Article 31.
Article 31, Open Space and Recreation Plan. Every 7 years, we must update our open space and recreation plan that must be approved by the state. It is a very important planning document for conservation and the CPC, and it enables us to apply for certain state grants. Chris Ryan recommended that we contract with OCPC, that's the Old Colony Planning Council, and I would like to also recognize Kathy and Pat Loring, members of the Open Space Committee, for moving forward on this project. The CPC recommends approval of the expenditure of $30,000 from the CPA Open Space account for the Open Space and Recreation Plan.
We have to do it, number one. Number two, to point out, and Amy and Cindy, I know, appreciate this particularly, and Fernando to a certain extent, when we did the comprehensive plan back in, when we started in 2017, I think, the open space and recreation plan was an important starting point. So it helped us really launch the whole thing, and I see Kathy Cross is in the back. She and Pat Loring were the driving forces behind the open space and rec plan that resulted in the, it's almost like all these concentric circles that were working together. So with Pat and Kathy starting the momentum going, that got us the comprehensive, the open space and rec plan that in turn got us to the comprehensive plan, and that at some point will get us to zoning. But with that said, it's hard to believe it's been that long already. Feels like the ink just dried on the open space and recreation plan, but it is something that needs to be done. But we have a great model that in place already, so we're not starting from scratch.
An
We're
update.
updating what we have.
They will be, OCPC will help with a survey that will be distributed, and we're all working on the language and the sort of questions on that right now.
Great. Terrific.
Do you have any crystal ball feelings on what kind of article or what kind of projects will be on next year's as far as recreation, as far as the capacity issues with the fields and things of that nature? Has there been any discussions of that?
Typically, we have people that present their proposals to us. Occasionally, since we all serve in different committees, a member of the CPC may also bring forth an item to be reviewed. At this point, I can't say that there's anything that is, there's nothing really that is firm right now.
I guess I just express my hope that, when something does come up, that we'll see it in the near future.
If you know of something, let us know.
Oh, you will be. It's called the Duxbury Recreation Collaborative.
Yeah, I'm beating around the,
Yeah, they're coming in here. Yep.
Great.
Yep.
Do we have a?
And what is that?
What's going on here?
Yeah.
The school committee met. I don't know if you guys follow the school committee activity at all, but they had a meeting with them back in October or November.
This
There's
is
a group
this
called
is
the
a-
Duxbury Recreation Collaborative. They're a nonprofit.
Oh, yeah.
And they want to partner with the schools in the town. We've been working with them. I had a meeting with them in November. We had to put it on pause over the holidays. They have a fascinating plan to really revitalize and invigorate a lot of town fields because the usage is high and the demand is there. And they're going to be coming in here probably after town meeting is when I had said, because I wanted a clearer sense of what was going on, because at this point, with all the work we have to do on the warrant, it becomes too confusing. I wanted to make sure that they had their own time here to come in and make their presentation to you. But if you go on the school committee's website and you look back in the videos, I think in October or November, you can see their whole presentation. They're going to be giving you a very similar one. It's an interesting
also-
proposal. It was in the paper. It's really good.
There is an email list. I'm happy to forward. I'm on it, so I'm happy to forward their last presentation.
Yeah, why don't you do that, Mike?
They have some really nice out-of-the-box ideas.
Here's what I'll do. Do you have?
I'll send it. Yeah.
You send it, so I don't
I'll send you the
violate.
link. They actually have a presentation that's custom for this group, too.
Okay.
But that'll be in the, I'm not going to send it out right now because I want to
No,
make sure
no,
I have
no.
their most updated one, but when they do, I'm going to make sure you all get it.
Okay.
I presume they're dialed in with youth baseball, youth football, youth soccer,
Yeah,
youth
when we
all that
met
stuff.
in November, there were about 20 of us in this room. We
Okay.
brought everybody together, the schools, all
Good.
the youth groups, because I know them all. So, yeah, we were all here. It was, you'll see, it's very interesting.
Which almost begs the question as to any, exciting prospects for the acquisition of open space coming up, which every time I think about large tract, there's fewer and fewer in town. Do we know what happened with Miramar? Has that,
Private sale, no. Never heard anything.
that is, that could be very impactful depending on where that heads, so. It's too bad we don't have enough funds in the kitty, to, too bad I don't have enough funds in the kitty to buy, just a little summer house,
I think there was a.
Have a few
number,
friends over,
Like over a year ago, they were requesting 8 million on it.
Yeah,
There's quite a bit of wetland over there, but certainly, the potential is, it's good for whatever.
it's a beautiful spot.
Vote on this yet?
Okay, sorry, I
Right.
digress.
All right.
Ready to vote?
Yeah.
I'm ready for a vote.
I move that the select board recommend to town meeting the approval of Article 31 CPC Open Space and Recreation Plan.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent.
Before Holly sits down, and I see Mary's on the line too, I just had a question. I think I know what Mary's going to tell me,
Yep.
but I'm going to ask it anyway. For what I'll call the dry powder, the money that's with CPC but it's not otherwise encumbered, how is that invested?
Ask Mary that one.
Okay. Is it going to be the legal list?
I'm sorry?
Is it the legal list answer?
No, because
Okay.
that's not a long-term trust fund.
All right.
It's active, it's considered more like the general fund because we actively use it.
All right, so it's just sitting in the bank?
Yep, well, managed by Rockland Trust. So, the bulk of our portfolio is managed through our investment management team at Rockland Trust. And as we talked about at the previous meeting, we are trying to look at your agenda. You guys have a lot of business to take care of over the next couple of weeks. So we're trying to find some place on an agenda to have Rockland Trust come out and have a conversation with you folks about how our investments are managed.
Sure, and I ask because it seems like the planets are aligning here. We're getting, with a 3% CPC surcharge, we're getting more into the kitty, and rates are still relatively high. So it seems that would have the added benefit of making money with the cash sitting in the account. So I'm just curious how we're taking advantage of that opportunity.
Yep, and remember, so Brian, you had mentioned the legal list. Remember, we can't do anything yet until we get
Right.
town meeting action
Yep,
on that
yep,
article.
understood.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
I'm not understanding the legal list. What does that mean?
So,
Funds you.
well, I won't put words in Mary's mouth. Well, can I say from a layperson's
Go ahead.
perspective?
Yeah.
So, the Commonwealth says if cities and towns have money, you can't just take it down to Foxwoods and do what you can with it.
Darn.
You gotta, so you can only, it makes sense. You can
Yeah,
only
that does make
invest it-
sense, Brian. There's no doubt about it.
You can only invest it in certain areas, and it's
Okay.
called the legal list, and it's literally a list of investments. They're not particularly high performing, especially in this environment, so that's why last meeting, we voted to allow more flexibility in how
Okay.
town funds are invested.
Article 18.
Article
Yeah.
18.
Does
Yeah.
not include Foxwoods. However, it gives Mary more flexibility, Mary and her team at Rockland Trust, to get better yields on cash that's already here. In other words, make the money work for us as it's sitting in the bank somewhere. So as we think CPC, because there are so many worthy projects during the year, and we're always looking for money to fund that, that's one place to get so-called free money is through your investment returns.
Yeah.
So in any event, I'm glad it's being looked at carefully.
It is. If I might just also sort of clarify something, the schedule that you are looking at that Holly handed out That is the estimated budget for the Community Preservation Fund for FY '25, which represents essentially 3 times what we're normally used to collecting. So if you look at CPC and the available balances from previous years, they're much lower than that projection that you're looking at. So we essentially need to get through the full year of collecting those surcharges in order to have those in the coffers. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, and I mean, getting this state match of $850,000 that's on here is I think huge. I mean, I really feel like nobody likes to pay taxes, but this is the one tax that I don't mind so much. I feel like it just goes to the things that are so important. You get a match. It's there when we need it, and I just feel like it's the best thing.
Again, that state match is an estimate.
Maybe
And,
it'll be more.
well, we shall see.
It will not be more than that. I
come on.
would be highly suspect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
All right.
else?
Well, thank you very much.
good.
That's
Thank
all I
you.
have.
Good luck.
Thank you so much, Holly, for
And
your
before
work
you
on this,
wander away
and
from
Mary
the
as
warrant.
well, and all of you.
I just wanted to mention, now you have the entire schedule in front of you. You can see when everything is happening before either this board or the Finance Committee. And I'll draw your attention to this coming Thursday, 2 days from now, 3 days from now. The Finance Committee is going to be reviewing Articles 4, 5, 24, which you've already voted on. And in the special town meeting warrant, they're going to be looking at Articles 1, 2, and 4 through 8, in case you have any interest.
Yep.
The only thing left for them to look at in the operating budget is that of the school budget. It's just voting a final number.
And I'm sorry, when's that?
The first, Thursday,
Thursday. Okay.
just so you all know.
And is there a finance committee meeting tomorrow night? Tuesday, this week?
I thought there was, the 30th there is.
There is.
Yep.
Yes, there is.
I'm sorry, yeah, everything else on the, I forget what today's date is. Everything else on the 30th is listed in there too.
Yeah, so the.
So PFAS, they'll be talking about that tomorrow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that'd be good. 17 and 18, they'll be talking about 20 and 21.
And the historic districts, you can
Yes.
see the whole list. Yeah, so basically the historic districts and PFAS tomorrow.
Yep.
And one more. Oh, Article 17, which most likely they'll indefinitely postpone, they'll recommend indefinite postponement as well.
Okay.
So there you go.
Randy, do you have the packet for the special town meeting?
The warrant? No,
Warrant?
it just went over to council today, but I'll have it,
Okay.
I'll have it ready for the Finance Committee meeting on Thursday. Excuse me, at least in draft form, and when I do, I'll shoot it out to you folks too, so you can see the same thing.
And how many articles are in the special?
8, they're all listed right there.
Oh, I see.
Sure.
Rainey, should I follow up with you on Article 28?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep. Please, thank you.
All right. Town managers report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couldn't be more topical, I'll tell you. It's perfect. You guys talked about the long-range agenda. Guess what I brought? The long-range agenda.
Good.
Yeah. So the first item on the long-range agenda, we just talked about. You'll see that it's meeting with the Duxbury Recreation Collaborative, and that's going to be sometime either in February or March.
Excellent.
You mentioned the Duxbury Bay Management Commission, a tentative date for January or February. You'll see that the State of the Bay, the Duxbury Management Commission, we were just waiting to hear back from Fernando, Jake, and Joe Messina. And I guess that information will be coming to us. And we'll be able to-
It's B that we're talking about, the moratorium.
Yeah, and then there's B, the aquaculture moratorium, and we're going to be getting some information on that too. Then we've got the Coastal Resiliency Task Force wants to come in and talk about their charge. The adoption of a flag policy, which is a kind of a hot button issue these days amongst many municipalities. There was a recent seminar that KP Law hosted on that, people wanting to affix flags to United States flagpoles that might not be that might be a little more politically oriented than just the American flag or the MIA flag. Again, there'll be more information coming on that.
Talking about municipal flagpoles, right?
Yeah, sorry, not private. Yep. Then we've got the recurring water and sewer department subjects, the abatement policy, the PFAS is ongoing, as you all know. And then a discussion regarding future water rate increases. Then we've got the Highway Safety Committee that's sort of a perennial favorite. Then we've got a joint meeting with the Planning Board and the ZBA at some point, talking about priorities. And then Amy had asked a question asking if Chief Reardon could attend a Select Board meeting yet to be determined to explain how the rock is financially and fiscally beneficial to the town rather than having a standalone dispatch center. So that'll be coming. Mary had mentioned a discussion with Rockland Trust representative regarding trust fund accounts, investment, and management practices, and then the creation of a Halls Corner Working Group Advisory Committee, which was a result of the Housing Summit recommended by Chris Ryan. And then we heard tonight some interest in having a discussion on short-term rentals and an executive session regarding the recent UDI letter.
And we still have a pending meeting, Brian, myself, Jeannie, and you, Renee. And then we need to schedule a review by the Select Board of the town manager performance
Oh, yeah, the evaluation document.
evaluation document. Yeah, we need to schedule that.
As part of that, that discussion, one of the things that was left hanging, and I don't know if it's part of this discussion or parallel or similar, but when we were presented with the how do I say that, with the raises that were given, the merit raises, and that we learned that there was basically a 3% raise regardless of the merit score that you received. You know, a 99 was the same as a 70, or, you know, we all had I think a problem with how that was being handled, and realized that we really needed to have a policy and a policy in place for how we determine the percentage of merit raise. When is that part of the discussion that you're talking
Yes.
about, or is that?
I think, to be fair, Rennie, I think this is the first step, is evaluating the performance to put it into a bucket. And then the second step is how the merit pay is distributed to the town manager and the rest of employees that are eligible. So it's a two-part conversation. We need to do the first part, and then we'll do the second part.
Okay, I just don't want to lose the second
No,
part.
the second part is
Okay.
is important, so, yep.
Thank you.
All right.
You
One
come
of
with the second without the first.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. We'll give you the long range, give you the finance committee schedule. Unfortunately, our facilities director, Christina Knowles, advised me that she's taken a position with another outfit.
What?
Yep, and her last day will be February 9th, so we're in the process of refining the job description for that position and trying to fill it as quickly as possible. We wish.
been here?
Not
A
long
couple
at
of
all.
years, just under 2 years.
She's
A
great.
little over. Yeah, she's a talented person. We will miss her. One thing I did want to mention, there are 3 vacancies coming up on the planning board. Keith McDonald, Dave Udi, and Allison Shane. Their terms all expire. 2 of them are not running again. That means you're going to have 2 holes in the planning department that aren't going to be filled if no one decides to run. Nomination papers are available in the town clerk's office and are due back to the town clerk by this Saturday, February 3rd. A candidate must obtain 50 signatures certified by the town clerk to appear on the ballot. The office will actually be closed on Wednesday and Friday, as they'll be at a conference, but the town clerk will meet anyone returning papers on Saturday. Also, our office is available to assist in that endeavor should anybody want to come in and submit their papers for nomination. But it's pretty sad if we're going to have 2 vacancies on the planning board. It's pretty important, and we don't have a planning director either.
Let me put a plug out there. I mean, being a member of the planning board just gives you such an education. I mean, 3 of us up here started on the planning board and served for many years. All of us, you know, it was a commitment. It is an incredible learning experience. You learn so much. And it is incredibly important. You're elected, you work for the citizens, you're voted in by the residents, you're validated by them, if you will. And it's really important. It's important for planning the future. It's important for protecting the town as well from the increasing pressures to develop every square inch that's left of this town. And it's just an incredible and important job, and I really encourage anybody who has a passion for Duxbury to put your papers in. It's a humbling experience running, but one that
And they're 5-year terms, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a long term, but hey,
But there's
you
a
know,
big learning curve, but,
Yeah.
you know, it's really a great way to learn. I mean,
I would offer, anyone who's interested in learning more about it, I'm happy to make myself available, and I'm sure the rest of us, Cindy and Amy,
Absolutely.
would be willing to speak with anyone. It's not, I wouldn't suggest that you run for it just because it's open. It is a lot of work, as Amy said, but if you care about the town and you're interested in land use, it's definitely a fantastic opportunity to give back to our community.
Yep.
And any update on how we are progressing or not progressing with looking for a new planner?
we have put out feelers well, we've got the ad out there for a permanent. We're looking for part-timers. We're looking at any different avenues we can find.
Okay.
The regional planning agencies, trying to find an arrangement that way. We're exploring things every day.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And as we saw, just to your point, many of us heard the scuttlebutt at MMA, the Mass Municipal Association, the conference last week, right? Lots of towns are dying for terrific help. Planners, building inspectors, treasurers, the people who form the core, right? Administrators and managers. It's not just us. I know we have pretty high standards, and rightly so, but the candidates just aren't out there for whatever reason. I don't know why, but it's the whole state.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have we, in our water department, where we had so many vacancies and we were kind of forced, if you will, to have the outside consultant be doing a lot of what we used to have done in-house, how are we doing with that? Are we still?
We're in the process of working ourselves away from that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a timeline?
As the staff is coming on, they're getting trained, getting certified. My hope is, what is it now, January? Within the next couple of months, we should be able to back away from most of that
There's
arrangement.
light at the end of that tunnel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, believe me, we know the meter's running every time they go out. Quite literally, the water meter and the cab.
And Allison Shane, who was one of the members of the planning board that is vacating her seat, has taken a job as the assistant on conservation,
Yep.
assistant to Nancy Rufo. So
Great.
we congratulate her. She's
So
great.
I didn't realize
She's
Allison was
great.
one of the ones so she's not coming.
Yeah, there's
back.
3 vacancies.
There's 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 is a problem.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's why we really need to get.
Well, we had
Keith, David, and Allison are all.
we had other applicants, didn't we, when we appointed Allison?
Yeah, we had the gentleman from
You had Bo
the builder,
Boynton.
Champion Builders, right? Didn't he apply for the
I
planning
thought Bo
board?
Boynton did.
No,
No.
Bo didn't.
Who was it?
Is a young
that's
man,
right.
David Casey,
Well,
yeah.
you should,
Dacey.
there's some
Matt
time
Oh,
to
yeah, Matt
run.
Dacey, yeah.
Is it Matt
Yeah.
Okay, I got the name. He
There's-
applied.
There's
Can
time to run.
we look at whoever the other applicants were and maybe reach out to those folks? And
After the election, we would, yeah.
Okay.
We'll see if anybody
I think it's,
files between now and then.
Okay, all right.
People have to, on their own initiative.
No, I get it, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Draft
well,
it.
I'm happy to make some phone calls if that's what it takes, but.
Randy, I'm sorry, did you say there's 3 vacancies and no one's running?
Not that I'm aware.
Oh,
Any other,
I could be mistaken, I don't
are
think so.
there any other positions in town
Nobody
where that's
knows
an issue
anybody.
as well?
These are elected, so it's different. Hold on.
That's what I meant.
It was Tom Dacey was the name.
Tom Dacey.
Okay.
As far as the other positions with, that are up for election, are there any other ones that have nobody that's pulled papers on?
Not that
Are you
I'm
trying
aware.
to find out if anybody's running against you, Mr. McGee?
I'm seated. It's Fernando.
Oh, it's-
I ran
I don't
last
know
year.
who's running.
It's Fernando and Cindy.
Well, there was a library trustee vacancy too, right?
That's right,
Yep.
library trustee. Yeah.
And I believe that Casey Seaman has pulled papers, so she will.
Oh, good.
She,
Okay. Good.
she ran before, she
Right.
should have been appointed, but there was a bit of a glitch there. She's terrific
For which seat?
Library
for the
trustees.
library
Oh, okay.
trustee.
Susan-
Right.
Susan's telling me somebody returned papers today.
Okay,
Oh,
great. Oh, well, I
Casey.
think we can,
okay, where are we?
That's all I had.
oh,
Thank
great.
you.
Excellent. So the next thing on the agenda here is committee appointments, reappointments, and resignations. It looks like we don't have any. Okay, that was removed. One-day liquor license request. We have one from the South Shore Conservatory, a Far Cry performance. Do we have anybody from South Shore Conservatory?
No.
Not, I'll take a motion.
I'll move that Ms. Sharon Bohan, as a representative of the South Shore Conservatory, is granted a one-day wine and malt license for a Far Cry performance to be held at the South Shore Conservatory, Ellison Center for the Arts, 64 St. George Street, on Friday, February 16th, 2024, from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., contingent upon the conditions of the license.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
We have some minutes. I believe just open session minutes.
They looked great, both sets.
I move that we accept the minutes of 11/20/23. Do you want them separate? And 1/8/24. You want
I'm absent on the.
Let's do 11:20 first.
11/20/23.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Abstain, not present.
I move that we accept the minutes of 1/8/24.
All the-
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Announcements.
Oh, here it comes.
Dun, dun, dun.
Shellfish. Oh,
We'll get there.
can't find- oh, so- okay.
Here we go.
The announcements for 1/29/24. Greater Attleboro Taunton Regional Transit Authority, GATRA, will begin Sunday service across all fixed route buses effective February 5th, 2024. GATRA began offering Sunday service on select routes in mid-October 23. As of this full rollout in early February, Sunday service will now mirror the existing Saturday service offered across GATRA communities. Please visit www.gatra.org for more information and route-specific details. The next scheduled Select Board meeting will be Monday, February 5th, 2024, at 7 p.m.
We have a bonus shellfish season for
Can I ask you a
February.
question about GATRA before we move on? Do a lot of people in town use the GATRA bus?
Absolutely.
They do, that's great.
I know a lot of little kids that do. I'm the father to a couple of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
they love it. The kids, I'm not kidding you, these kids, sixth grade, they hop on the thing, they ride all over town.
That's
They love
great.
it. And I can speak for the little guys, because I know, because the first time they hopped on it, they said, "Dad, we got on the gotcha bus." I'm like, "What the hell's the gotcha bus?" "Oh, no, the GATRA bus." And they love it, because they pick it up down at the school, they cruise up to Hall's Corner, they ride all over the place. It's wonderful, yeah.
Oh, that's great.
So I can tell you that the ridership for about age 13 and under is pretty strong. From firsthand experience, and it's awesome.
How do the
That's-
fares work?
Cheaply,
Yeah.
but pretty easily. I don't know what they are, Brian, but I can get it for you.
Is it money, do you have to use money, cash money, or
I'm
is
never
it?
there when they're. You know how I know, Amy? Oh, what's he doing over there? Because my wife sees him on the phone on Life 360 riding around.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't really know the route. They do. So I don't know whether it's cash or I think it is cash, but I can't.
Okay, that's all right.
tell you for sure.
There's probably discounts for.
Could be, yeah, and they're kids and they love the thing.
It's kind of
I mean,
great.
they crawl all over it. They
Great.
great time. Yeah. Now I assume people above the age of 13 ride it too. So
Yes.
That's good. I'm glad, it's good for the environment, the more
Yeah,
we
it's
can
awesome.
bundle those things. Okay. I move that the Select Board declare a temporary bonus shellfish season for the commercial harvesting of soft-shelled clams for the month of February, the commercial harvesting of quahog clams for the month of February, and the recreational harvesting of soft-shell clams for the month of February. as
Second.
per the regulations.
Sorry. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.